Jung asked him when it started. The man said he didn't remember. Jung asked again. The man was lying. They both knew it. You always remember the first time you wanted to stop existing. He was 41. Software engineer. Married. 2 kids who thought he was fine. A wife who'd stopped asking if he was okay because the answer was always yes. But at night, lying in bed next to her, his mind would start racing. She'd be asleep. He'd be staring at the ceiling, replaying. The wedding speech where he'd tried to be funny, bombed completely. Stood there, holding the microphone while 60 people looked at their plates. His brother's wedding, 4 years ago. Still playing on loop. The time he'd mispronounced a client's name in a pitch meeting. Said it wrong 3 times before someone corrected him. The awkward silence after. Worse were the ones from childhood. High school. Sophomore year. Called his teacher mom in front of the entire class. Not elementary school where that's almost cute. High school. The room went silent. Someone laughed. Then everyone laughed. He could still feel his face burning. See, here's what happens with humiliation. It doesn't fade. It calcifies. Becomes part of your infrastructure. The moment you wanted to disappear gets archived in perfect detail, ready to replay at 3 in the morning when everyone else is sleeping, and you're lying there remembering how you ruined a wedding trying to be funny. The man had tried everything. Positive thinking that felt like lying, mindfulness apps that told him to observe his thoughts without judgment. He observed them fine. They didn't stop coming. Jung listened to all of this. Then he did something unexpected. He asked the man to describe the most recent one. In detail. The man hesitated. Last week. His kid's school play. Sitting in the audience. Adjusted himself. Thought no one was looking. Parent volunteer was taking photos for the school website. Caught him mid-adjustment. Photo went up on the school's Facebook page. Other parents saw it. Someone tagged him. His face burned just telling Jung about it. And since then? Since then, he'd replayed it maybe 200 times. Each replay finding new details to torture himself with. The way his colleague had looked at him with what might have been pity. The forced politeness from his manager. The fact that his voice had wavered when he spoke. Jung leaned forward. When you replay it, he said, "Where are you?" The man blinked. What? In the memory. When you're watching yourself fail. Where are you watching from? The man opened his mouth. Closed it. He'd never thought about it. But now that Jung asked, he realized. He wasn't in his own body. He was watching himself from across the table. Seeing himself the way they must have seen him. Pathetic. Trying too hard. Failing. I'm watching myself, he said quietly. Through whose eyes? Everyone's. Jung sat back. So you've appointed yourself the audience to your own humiliation. You perform it. You watch it. You judge it. And you do this 200 times for a moment that lasted 30 seconds. The man's hands tightened on the armrests. I can't stop. Can't? Jung said, or won't. What's the difference? Can't means you're powerless. Won't means you're choosing it. I'm not choosing this. No? Then why do you keep replaying it? Because it happened. Many things happened last week. You don't replay them all. Just this one. Why? The man stared at him. Because I need to figure out what I did wrong. Jung's expression didn't change. And have you? After 200 replays, have you figured it out? No. Will you? If you replay it 2,000 more times? The man said nothing. So it's not about figuring it out, Jung said. It's about something else. What? Punishment. The word landed heavy. You're punishing yourself, Jung continued, for being human in public, for existing in a way that might be judged. And the punishment is this: endless replay, endless humiliation, performed by you, for you, forever. I don't want to punish myself. Then why does it feel necessary? The man's throat tightened. Because if I don't, he said slowly, then I'll do it again. I'll embarrass myself again. And people will see. Jung nodded once. So the humiliation isn't the problem. The problem is that you believe you deserve it. The man looked away. Jung stood, walked to his desk, wrote something on a piece of paper. Tonight, he said, I want you to do something. The man waited. Pick your worst memory, the one you replay most, and I want you to write it down. Everything, every detail you remember, everything you said, everything they said, how it felt. The man's stomach turned. Why? Because right now it lives in your head where you can't see it clearly. You just feel it. Over and over. We're going to put it on paper where you can look at it like it happened to someone else. That sounds worse. Good, Jung said. That means you're close to something true. The session ended. The man drove home, waited until his family went to bed, stared at the piece of paper Jung had given him. That night, he sat at the kitchen table, and he began to write. He chose the wedding speech, his brother's wedding, 4 years ago. The one he replayed most. He wrote it all down. Every word he'd said, every face he'd seen looking back at him. The way his voice had cracked on the punchline, the silence that followed, how he'd tried to recover, made it worse. The polite applause that felt like pity. Writing it took 2 hours. His hand cramped. He kept stopping, starting again. When he finished, he read it back, and something strange happened. On paper, it looked different, smaller. The speech was 90 seconds long. 90 seconds that he'd replayed for 4 years, 48 months, over 1,000 nights lying awake, for 90 seconds of awkwardness. He brought the pages to his next session. Jung read them slowly, then looked up. Tell me what you see when you read this. The man's throat tightened. I see myself failing. Failing at what? Being good enough, funny enough, someone people want to listen to. Jung set the pages down. And what actually happened? According to what you wrote, I told a bad speech. People didn't laugh. It was awkward. Did anyone leave? Know us? Did your brother ask you to stop? No. Did anyone stand up and announce that you were terrible? The man looked at his hands. No. So what you're telling me, Jung said, is that you gave an awkward speech, people felt briefly uncomfortable, and then the wedding continued. Yes. And for this, you've sentenced yourself to 4 years of nightly torture. The man said nothing. Here's what I want you to understand, Jung continued. The speech isn't the problem. The humiliation isn't the problem. The problem is that you believe you don't deserve to be seen unless you're perfect. I'm not trying to be perfect. No? Then why does every small mistake feel like proof that you shouldn't exist? The words landed heavy, because that's what this is, Jung said. Every replay, every time you lie awake remembering, you're not trying to figure out what went wrong. You're punishing yourself for being visible, for taking up space, for existing in a way that might be judged. The man's chest tightened. So what do I do? Jung leaned back. You start noticing when you disappear. What? Every time you have an opinion and don't share it. Every time someone asks what you want and you say you don't care. Every time you make yourself smaller to avoid the possibility of being wrong, you're disappearing. And you think that keeps you safe. It does keep me safe. From what? From this. From embarrassment. From people seeing me fail. Jung nodded slowly. So you've built a life where you're protected from humiliation by never being fully present, never speaking up, never risking being seen. And the cost of this safety is that you replay every moment you were visible, punishing yourself for daring to exist. The man looked away. That's how it works, Jung said quietly. You can't selectively numb. When you protect yourself from humiliation, you protect yourself from everything. Joy, connection, being known. So I'm just supposed to accept being embarrassed? No. You're supposed to accept being human. Jung stood, walked to the window. The wedding speech. The photo at the school play. Calling your teacher mom. These aren't traumas. They're moments of being imperfect in public, and you've turned them into evidence that you don't deserve to be seen. He turned back. But here's what you're not seeing. No one else is replaying these moments. The people at that wedding moved on before dessert was served. The parents who saw that photo forgot about it the next day. Your high school classmates don't remember. You're the only one still watching. You're the only audience that matters. And you're a brutal critic. The man's hands were shaking. Jung sat back down. For the next week, I want you to do something different. Every time you catch yourself replaying a humiliation, I want you to ask one question. What question? What am I protecting myself from right now? The man stared at him. Because the replay isn't random, Jung said. It happens when you're about to be visible, about to speak up, about to take a risk. Your mind floods you with past failures to keep you safe from future ones. So I just notice it, you notice it. And you speak anyway. You show up anyway. You exist anyway. That sounds impossible. Good, Jung said. That means you're close to something real. The man left that session and drove home in silence. That night, lying in bed, his mind started racing. The wedding speech, the school photo, all of it flooding back. But this time he asked the question, what am I protecting myself from right now? And he realized. Tomorrow he had a meeting. He'd been thinking about sharing an idea, something he'd been working on, something that mattered to him. His mind was flooding him with humiliation to stop him from trying. The next morning he went to the meeting, his heart pounding, the wedding speech playing in his head. He shared his idea anyway. It didn't go perfectly. Someone asked a question he couldn't answer. He stumbled over a few words, but the meeting ended. People moved on. No one replayed it except him. And even his replay was different this time. Shorter, less vicious. Over the following weeks, he kept asking the question, kept noticing when the humiliations would surface. Always before he was about to be seen. Always before he was about to speak. Always protecting him from the risk of being visible. And slowly, something changed. The replays didn't stop, but they lost their power. Because he understood what they were. Not memories, weapons, tools he'd built to keep himself small. At his final session, Young asked him about the wedding speech. The man smiled slightly. I still remember it, but I don't live in it anymore. And when it comes back, I ask what I'm protecting myself from. Usually it means I'm about to do something that matters. Jung nodded. That's the secret no one tells you about humiliation. It doesn't go away. You just stop letting it decide whether you deserve to exist. The man left Young's office for the last time. That night, lying in bed, his mind started racing again. The wedding speech. Always the wedding speech. But this time, instead of replaying it, he asked himself the question, what am I protecting myself from? Tomorrow, he was going to tell his wife something true. Something vulnerable, something that might make him visible in a way that scared him. His mind was trying to stop him. He let the wedding speech play, acknowledged it, then made a choice. He'd tell her anyway. Because that's how it works. The humiliation never stops coming. The memories never fully fade. You just learn they're not proof that you shouldn't exist. They're proof that you did. That you were visible, imperfect, human. And that's worth more than safety.